Steve and Alan's pro tips in a short time. Learn a lot.
Hey, Steve.
Hey, Alan.
We're continuing with our summer reading series. A friend of the podcast and our jingle vocalist, Matthew Armstrong, shared a few articles with us from the vocal world that have a little something for all teachers.
Did you pick one for us to discuss?
I picked part of one to discuss. It's a set of pointers that were shared via social media among many vocal teachers during Music in Our Schools Month, and some editors from NAfME, the National Association for Music Education, compiled them.
Oh, yes. That was the one with the longest title. NAfME choral cues stimulate conversation during Music in Our Schools Month. Lots of little pointers in there. Which one do you want to talk about?
Let's talk about how do you relieve a tired voice after a long day of teaching. We've talked a lot on this podcast about health and wellness and about hearing health, but we need to take care of our teacher voices. So I thought this would be good for all our teacher listeners, even the non-music teachers.
Yeah, it's just 4 bullet points. Do you want to hit each one?
Yes, let's. Okay, the first one was take time during your commute home to cool down with some simple SOVT exercises.
I do not know what SOVT means. Do you know what it means?
I do now. I looked it up, and it's basically stuff that you do to inhibit your breathing. So think about.
Wait, and that's good?
Yeah.
We do that on purpose? Okay.
Yeah, it's breathing exercises that involve resistance. So I bet we've got a lot of folks out there who are big fans of breathing gym. Right now, I'm taking the palm of my hand, I'm turning it so it's perpendicular to my mouth, and I'm trying to blow through pursed lips through that hand. That occludes the breathing. That's what the O stands for at SOVT. You can do the like you're buzzing through pursed lips, like you're prepping to play a brass instrument, anything that keeps you from getting all the air out at once. Do you do anything like that?
No, never have. So what does SOVT stand for?
SOVT stands for semi-occluded vocal tract. It's just a fancy way of saying the air is partially blocked on its way out of the mouth. There's a lot of different types of SOVT exercises, which all have different levels of air resistance and different advantages and disadvantages. I think the simplest one is hissing. You force that hiss out. You haven't done that with students or as a player?
Nope, never have.
Oh, all right.
And how does this help our vocal health? I can see how it would help our lungs, perhaps.
Yeah.
And I should probably be doing this with students, but I haven't. I hadn't thought about how it would help from a vocal standpoint.
Yeah, and I don't know the answer to that either. But the experts, according to this article, say that this will help you cool down. That's the phrase they use, is cool down. So if your voice is tired, you hiss. The author says, I keep a straw in my car. So breathing in and out through a straw requires that resistance, and perhaps that cools down the vocal cords.
Okay. So after a long day, or even maybe in between classes, right after a class, just like we might do a warm down of some sort on a wind instrument, we can warm down our voices with these exercises.
Yep, we can hiss, we can raspberry, we can try to blow through our hand, any one of those things. I'm sure some of our listeners know some of those things.
I'm sure they have too. My hunch is most of them are doing these at the beginnings of rehearsals or the beginnings of the day as sort of a warm up. So good idea to put it near the end as well.
Yeah.
What was the second point?
Be proactive. When you start to feel your voice getting tired, consider having a silent rehearsal and take vocal breaks during your planning or lunch times if you can. I have loved the silent rehearsal idea. When I've been sick, I will maybe write that on the board, or maybe I won't, but I will have the first 10 to 15 minutes of the rehearsal be silent. And whether or not you tell students that's what you're doing, they're very attentive if that's something that you don't do all the time. How about you? You ever done that?
Yes, but I also teach college. My first thought when I saw this was that there are probably a whole bunch of middle school teachers thinking, yes, I would love to have a silent rehearsal. Every day, in fact, I'd love to have a silent rehearsal. I wonder if perhaps in some situations it might not be reasonable to have a 40 or 45-minute silent rehearsal, but even just 5 minutes where we say, all right, students, we're going to have a silent rehearsal here for this next chunk of time. And that might be a little bit more manageable if we are perhaps having classroom management issues or things like that, where a 40 or 45-minute silent rehearsal isn't reasonable.
Fair enough. The other thing you can do to accompany that, even if it's not perfectly silent, is if you've got a group that can handle it, invite their feedback. So instead of saying, here's what I'm hearing, turn to some student or student leader and say, please tell the group what you're hearing. And then let's act on that. It may not be a 100% effective rehearsal, but it will preserve your voice for the next day. How about the idea of like taking vocal breaks? Have you ever done any vocal rest and just purposely didn't talk to people or even told people I'm going on vocal rest? Don't expect me to be chatty.
I do that for sure when I am conducting an honor band, because in my teaching position at Coe College, I might teach one or two courses per day. It's kind of spread out. So, especially when I come back in the fall, and then I might go direct an honor band the whole day, that's a lot of talking. And I will say at lunch or on breaks to directors or students, like, I'm trying to conserve my voice because I can tell I only have so much left in the tank today.
This third pointer, again, kind of like the restricted breathing, sounds more like a warm up thing than a cool down thing, but they're recommending gentle humming, sirens, and sighing.
Yeah, this reminds me of the choral warm ups that I hear outside my office. And again, I'm sort of associating these with the warm ups, but it sounds like these could be used afterwards as well. Or do these warm ups, are these in place specifically to help prevent future injury or stress?
When I looked at this, I likened it to the brisk walk that you do or the warm up run that you do before you do a more intense kind of exercise. And then afterwards, you don't stop abruptly. You walk again or you jog a little bit to cool down from that exercise. So, if gentle humming and sirens and sighing will help you with the warm up, maybe they'll help you cool down in much the same way that that walk does at the end.
I like it. And the fourth?
The fourth one came from a different expert. Humming and deep breathing, hot tea, and silence are my go-tos. A little bit of this is repetitive. So just focusing on the hot tea. Now that's one I already knew. And that's one that I believe in as well, especially when you throw honey in. I don't know what it is about honey. I don't believe the conventional wisdom that it coats your throat. I think there's something different about honey, regardless, whether it's placebo or chemical. Honey and lemon in the tea, the hot water, they soothe.
I like it. My recommendation to listeners right now, while we're in the summer and not in the thick of things, is how can you be proactive about all of this stuff as we go into the school year? I think our voice, much like our hearing or any other aspects of our health, when it's all working properly, we aren't thinking about it. We aren't thinking about preserving it or trying to make it better because there are no signals to us that something is wrong. And as is often the case, once we start to get those signals that something is wrong, it can be much more difficult to repair. And I wonder if just having a little note to yourself above your computer or next to your conductor stand or your desk, wherever, just reminding you to do some of these things with regularity throughout each day might stave off issues years down the road.
That's a really good way of putting it, Steve. I'm going to put it in a less diplomatic way. Don't let a summer of self-care become a period of self-neglect. You know, there's a lot of stuff we do for fun in the name of self-care, and we should do that. We should do things that bring us joy, but we should not neglect the sorts of things that will keep us well so that when the fall comes, and the fall will come, we're ready for it. We shall keep reading these articles from Matthew and see what else we might share with you.
Sounds good. Take it easy, Alan.
Bye, Steve.
Steve and Alan's Pro Tips in a short time. Learn all.